This is Sherepunjab Radio, AM 600, Vancouver.
ਹੋਇਆ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਲੈਜਿਸਲੇਟਿਵ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬਣੀ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਐਕਟ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਸੰਸ਼ੋਧਨ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਰਿਫਾਰਮਸ ਕਰਨੇ ਆ, ਹਾਊ ਟੂ ਰਿਫਾਰਮ ਦਾ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਐਕਟ, ਇਸ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਲੈਜਿਸਲੇਟਿਵ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਸੀ, ਇਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬੋਲਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਬੌਨੀ ਹੈਨਰੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਸੂਬੇ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਆਫਿਸਰ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੁਛ ਐਸੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਰੱਖੇ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਫੈਡਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਫੀ ਇਤਰਾਜ਼ ਹੋਇਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਓਬਜੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਤੇ ਕੀਤੀ। ਔਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਬ੍ਰਾਇਨ ਸੋਵੇ, ਉਹ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਨੇ ਫੋਨ ਲਾਈਨ 'ਤੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਰਮਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ, ਮੇਰੇ ਸਾਥੀ ਰਿਪੋਰਟਰ, ਉਹ ਦੱਸਣਗੇ ਕਿ ਦਰਅਸਲ ਬੌਨੀ ਹੈਨਰੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕੀ ਸੀ। ਜੀ ਸਰਮਜੀਤ, ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਜੀ।
ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਸਮੀਤ ਜੀ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਬੌਨੀ ਹੈਨਰੀ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬੀਤੇ ਦਿਨ ਸੋਮਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਲੈਜਿਸਲੇਟਿਵ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਦੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਸੀ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਤੇ ਐਡਿਕਸ਼ਨ ਵਰਗੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਿਊਨਸੀਪਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਆਫੀਸਰਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਡੀਲ ਕਰ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਇਨ ਕੰਪੈਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਟੂ RCMP ਆਫੀਸਰਸ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੁਝ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲਸ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ RCMP ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਰਹਿ ਗਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਨੈਲੋਜ਼ੋਨ ਕਿਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਲੈਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਿਊਨਸੀਪਲ ਫੋਰਸਿਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਫੀਸਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਕੁਇਪ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਿਊਨਸੀਪਲ ਆਫੀਸਰਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨੂੰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਡੀਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਔਰ RCMP ਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਹੈ।
ਮਿਸਟਰ ਬ੍ਰਾਇਨ ਸੋਵੇ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਗੁੱਡ ਮਾਰਨਿੰਗ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਸੋਵੇ, ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ ਮਚ ਫॉर ਬੀਇੰਗ ਵਿਦ ਅਸ।
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having us.
Brian, I would like to know what is your reaction on Dr. Bonnie Henry's recent, this statement, or I should say comment on working style of RCMP.
Well, I think I don't know if you've seen a copy of our letter, but essentially,
I do have the copy.
Yes. Our membership were appalled. They were affronted by the comments of Dr. Henry, and I have to say, Dr. Henry has done a fantastic job being the public face of the province of British Columbia with respect to keeping people informed about COVID and the restrictions and the risks associated. Mm-hmm. However, here we're talking about modernization of a police act. I wonder if that is the right person to seek evidence from and speak on policing practices. Our membership are at the forefront across British Columbia with respect to mental health resources, with respect to partnership of marginalized communities. In fact, they are some of the leaders in the best practices adopted by police services across Canada. Naloxone is an example. The RCMP was the first police service in British Columbia to issue naloxone to its first responders, and that was back in September 2016. Delta was the second police service to follow suit. Thus far, over 1,000 lives have been saved from RCMP issued naloxone. So to speak out of turn, I think, is where we're coming from with respect to Dr. Henry's comments to that policing committee.
But do you find it appropriate or inappropriate?
I think it's inappropriate. And, for example, Dr. Henry has a brother who was a member of the RCMP and speaks to their experience in Sayward. And Dr. Henry is relating to that experience in a small community with limited resources for mental health and health care to her own experiences in Victoria, which has lots of hospitals, lots of psychiatric nurses, or Vancouver. And those are comparing apples to oranges.
And after writing this letter, what is going to be your new step? Do you demand an apology or any clarification from health officer?
I don't know if we demand an apology, but it certainly would be nice to have a conversation with Dr. Henry, so perhaps she can clarify her remarks to that particular committee and provide information that is relevant to our membership as well as to policing and the state of mental health and healthcare resources within British Columbia, which have been declining for years.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Sauve, you have questioned the leadership of BC government. Do you think Mr. Premier is responsible for not giving the adequate fund to the RCMP?
Well, we did make a submission to the provincial government with respect to the resource levels of the BC RCMP that was in late 2019. As the population of British Columbia grows, not talking about the larger communities like Surrey and such, and we're talking about the provincial areas, the north, the Chilcotin, the southeast districts. The budget for and the resources allocated to the provincial police service have remained flat. So numerous years of governments have refused to increase the resources to those provincial policing areas. And at the same time, they're cutting healthcare resources and mental health resources. So the police officers that are on the ground there are asked to do more and more and more with less and less and less, and an increasing population. So we have asked for that. I still wait to hear from Premier Horgan as well as the province as to whether or not they will appropriately fund policing in British Columbia, and we'll wait and see.
When you said the budget is flat, how much have been received till date, if we say a yearly basis?
I believe the BC RCMP, I won't speak on their behalf, but the numbers that I've seen, I think, are in about $330 million, somewhere around there, for the provincial policing component. So that's not the Lower Mainland, those larger detachments. That's places like Squamish, Dene, Valemont, Tumbler Ridge, Sayward, as an example.
And Brian, you sent this letter to Honourable Mike Farnworth and Adrian Dix, and along with the Deputy Commissioner of BC RCMP. Did you hear anything back from any of these people?
We haven't heard back from any of the politicians. I know Dr. Henry has responded that she wants to have a conversation, and we're really open to that conversation about putting her remarks into context and perhaps clarifying to that committee about what she actually meant, or if there's some corrections that need to be made. And we look forward to that discussion.
All right. What message would you like to deliver to the listeners of Sherepunjab Radio?
Oh, I mean, policing is a complex world. And just like I said, whether we're in Surrey or whether we're in Fort St. John or Fort Nelson, we have seen, or even in Vancouver, for that example, what you've seen is a decrease in resources forcing police to be the first responders to almost every problem. Until we as Canadians or as British Columbians decide to focus on what really puts someone into crisis, we shouldn't be criticizing the end result that is there today.
Brian, we know that now the city of Surrey is on path for the transition from RCMP to Surrey Zone Police, and now Dr. Bonnie Henry, as she gave her comments on RCMP culture. Do you think that maybe this provincial government wants to go for municipal police or provincial police in spite of having a RCMP here?
I don't know, or I'm not going to hypothesize what the provincial government may be thinking about. Clearly from my perspective and from the publicly available statistics, they show that the RCMP is one of the most effective police services in Canada, bar none. And they do that with fewer resources and fewer budgeting and fewer dollars than any other municipal or provincial police service. So should the province want to go down that road, welcome the discussion and how they would like to approach that. And with respect to Surrey, that is by far from a done deal, no matter what the new chief or the mayor or the police board is advertising. There are so many hurdles to overcome, and just changing a uniform is not going to change the impact of a police service with respect to people in crisis or marginalized communities.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time. Really appreciate that you came over here on very short notice.
Thank you. Have a great week.